Northeast of Romania, on the European Route 85, a 600-kilometer-long road that spans the country from north to south. It's a Monday afternoon, like any other. A car accident has just taken place. Two vehicles are involved. The car was hit by an oncoming vehicle at the exit of the bend. The impact was violent. One of the passengers is left traumatized on the side of the road. Her sister, who was driving, was seriously injured. A member of her family came as soon as possible to support her.
He's shocked. For a moment.
Her sister and the passenger of the other car are receiving care in the emergency vehicle. And it's impossible to know what state they're in. The two victims are in a worrying condition. They must be transported urgently to the nearest hospital. On this extremely busy road, it is impossible to stop the traffic without risking a huge traffic jam or another accident. The two emergency vehicles maneuver with great difficulty to get out of the traffic, but to no avail. They lose precious minutes for the two victims. The firemen have no choice. In the chaos, they decide to close the E85 to help the ambulances. After a while, the two vehicles finally manage to get out. The traffic will be able to resume. Now, Mikhail, a traffic policeman, is in charge of finding out the exact circumstances of the accident. Mikhail starts by questioning the passenger of the second vehicle involved, still shocked by the accident.
Normal, mai ales că prin umiditate și drumuri așa, în curbe se poate întâmpla oricine.
The forensic police immediately proceed in taking the first measurements to validate his report. But on this extremely dangerous turn, cars just manage to skim past the police officers. The Romanian emergency services are regularly victim to careless drivers. In this footage, an ambulance rushing towards an accident zone, all sirens blaring, is hit by a car. The damaged cars are finally removed from the road by tow trucks. It took the emergency services an hour and a half to completely clear the road. The two injured will miraculously escape with only a broken leg and a head injury. Daniel, the brother-in-law of the victims, is not angry. The problem, according to him, is that there are no highways in the northeast of the country.
Sunt foarte îngusti, nu sunt autostrăzi, sunt foarte înguste drumul la noi. Plus că se merge și cu viteză, de asta se mor șosele mult. Faptele vorbesc. Ar trebui să stăm în teamă, normal. Ar trebui mai late. Dacă ai autostradă, ai și unde te retrage, te poți retrage pe o bandă, pe alta, dar așa nu ai unde, aici unde să o iei? În marginea șanțului sau într-un altul.
In Romania, it's dangerous to be a driver. The country even holds a very sad record. Nestled between Ukraine and the Balkans, Romania is the most dangerous country in Europe in terms of road safety, ahead of Bulgaria and Hungary. More than 2,000 deaths and 40,000 serious injuries every year. On the side of the roads, thousands of crosses honor the memory of the victims. The cause is irresponsible drivers, who often mix alcohol and speed. But the state of the roads and the total absence of adapted infrastructure are also to blame. The only possible routes for commerce and tourism are these huge 2- or 3-lane national roads that pass through towns and villages. No separation of roads, no emergency lane. Interspersed with poorly signposted level crossings. They are the scene of terrible carnage. The deadliest road in Romania is the European 85, which connects the capital Bucharest to the Ukrainian border. In the country, nearly 1 out of 3 fatal accidents take place on this road. For over a month, we followed the daily life of E85 users. We met the desperate victims and their families. On the ground, emergency services are doing everything they can to save lives. The road police tighten punishment and controls by applying a zero-tolerance policy for the drivers. Stefan Mandaki, an eccentric millionaire, tries to do everything in his power to avoid the punishment.
Și am spus, Daniel, acum redactez o acțiune și dai în judecată pe toți președinții României din 1990 până astăzi.
But the European 85 also sees the illegal trafficking of wood, drugs, and cigarettes.
Deci au scos panchete din spate, scaunul din partea șoferului, pentru că încăpea cât mai multe țigări în roțile mașinii.
Ukrainian mafias use the E85 to get into Europe. High-speed getaways and overloaded trucks, a permanent danger for drivers. To understand the drama that wreaks havoc among drivers in Romania, we head to the most dangerous road in Europe. Suceava, 100,000 inhabitants, is one of the most important urban areas in Romania, known for its wood trade and this deadly road. The city is literally cut in two by the European 85, which connects the capital Bucharest to the northern border. It is one of the starting points of the rescue units that intervene on the E85. In the streets, the sirens are an almost permanent noise. At the city's fire department headquarters, the teams are ready to go to battle. They have just been called to an emergency road accident. The sirens sound and they rush to the scene of the tragedy.
Vreau să mă asigur că ați recepționat ce-o comunicat 1021.
On site, the situation is fragile, a frontal collision between two cars. The first driver has been pulled out of his vehicle, but the second victim is still stuck behind the wheel, injured and in a state of shock. The firemen have only a few minutes to get him out and to transport him to the emergency hospital of Suceava. Meanwhile, the victim is looked after by the first aid workers. They break the windows of the car. Then they use hydraulic shears to get into the car, the only way to remove the victim safely. In less than 2 minutes, the cockpit is entirely cut out. The rescuers can now remove the victim with the utmost care. In reality, this real-life scenario is training for the firemen of Suceava. However, they still take it very seriously. An obligatory exercise once a month to improve their reaction time in order to gain those precious minutes that often cost the life of those injured on the road. Injured with multiple cranial, osseous traumas and internal hemorrhage. In Romania, victims die too often before reaching the hospital.
Iar pe partea din spate, unde o să fie extrasă victima, la fel. Deci toate elementele tăiate care ar putea prejudicia.
In this footage, filmed less than a year ago, the firemen intervene in a terrible head-on collision, which left no chance for those inside. The cars were completely destroyed, and airbags stained with blood, 2 dead and 3 seriously injured. The firemen did not manage to take out one of the drivers in time. Scenes of violence that don't inspire hope for the Romanian firemen.
Da? Totul în regulă? Alin?
Sute poate de astfel de intervenții. O echipă care știe ce are de făcut pas cu pas și care este coordonată exemplar și care a salvat foarte mult.
On the E85, all security forces are mobilized to slow down the traffic, with the traffic police at the forefront of the operation. At 8 a.m., the day starts once again, and with a bang for these Romanian policemen. A first serious accident on the E85 in the middle of Suceava has just been reported to the authorities.
Cu mine vorbeați? Da, avem un accident cu victime. Deci noi suntem primul echipaj care, sau unul dintre echipajele care ajung la fața lor.
A pedestrian is the victim, as is often the case when there is a collision in the heart of the city. She is in critical condition.
Ambulanța se întorcea de la fața locului. Probabil au preluat victime.
While passing a crosswalk, a woman was hit by this driver in too much of a hurry who didn't give her priority. A violent impact. The shape of the victim's head can still be seen on the windshield. The officer immediately performs a blood alcohol test on the driver of the car involved.
Ții din aparat, da? Trageți aer în piept mai mult și suflați fără oprire câteva secunde. Eu vă spun că să vă opriți, da? Țineți aparatul în mână, trageți aer în piept și suflați.
In Romania, we do not joke about alcohol behind the wheel. A no-tolerance policy. You must have 0 grams in your blood to drive legally. Yet nearly 12% of fatal accidents are due to alcohol. In this footage from 2018, this driver was arrested with nearly 3 grams in his blood after this spectacular glide. Every year, hundreds of drunk drivers are the cause of reckless accidents. In this case, it was not a problem of alcohol, but rather negligent driving behind the wheel.
Am fost scanat de o mașină de București, un Logan al Bleu Marin, nu știa încotro să o ia. Era pe mijlocul benzii acolo, cu ochii la el să nu-l lovesc, să nu aia. Pe doamna am văzut-o târziu, atâta tot. Vă mulțumesc.
The driver will be summoned to the police station in a week's time, once the investigation is over. The policemen do not have time to linger. They are called on to another emergency, a much more serious one.
Cercetarea la fața locului s-a încheiat. Acum urmează celelalte activități procedurale. Haideți, plecăm. Rămâneți aici.
It only takes them a few minutes to arrive at the scene of another drama. The accident occurred less than a quarter of an hour ago on the E85 along a 400-meter straight road. A bleak spectacle. 4 cars were involved. 2 suffered a frontal impact of extreme force at more than 80 kilometers per hour.
Deconectarea bornelor. Domnul Firalix se văzut că scântei și atunci...
The other 2 cars ended up in the sunflower field, which borders the E85. The accident resulted in 2 seriously injured victims who have just been taken to the emergency room.
O mașină a intrat în depășire, având vizibilitatea redusă din cauza soarelui, mă rog, e bătut soarele în față.
The wife of one of the victims is on the side of the road, still shocked by the violence of the accident.
Acum l-am băgat la tomograf. M-a sunat de acolo cineva și l-am băgat la tomograf. niciodată nu mai vin pe aici. Zic eu, niciodată n-am să vin pe aici.
For the police officers, the investigation work begins now. They must try to establish the exact circumstances of the accident.
Domnul este șoferul mașinii.
On this straight road limited to 80 kilometers per hour, any attempt to overtake can be extremely dangerous. The smallest error of negligence can end in an inevitable collision.
Dacă o mai rămas...
Eu am tras dreapta de volan ca să nu așeată, în momentul ăla o izbit-o din față și atunci o izbit-o în mini. Ea avea timp să treacă, practic. Dacă ăsta cu albă, ăsta nu recunoaște. Da. Și ăsta a intrat în depășire. Deci eu 100 în mie spun că a intrat în depășire. Și atunci s-a izbit frontal și m-a izbit pe mine din lateral. M-a băgat aici.
Problemă de viteză, de adaptare la condițiile de trafic, sunt și multe mașini grele, multe tiruri care traversează acest drum european. Și categoric fiind și drum...
Once again, dangerous and unregulated passing on the E85 is the cause of a serious accident. Every day, drivers in a hurry don't hesitate to cross white lines to pass the vehicle in front of them, taking reckless risks. Overtaking on the right or in the middle of the lane without any visibility. Much like this careless driver who will cause a very serious accident. The behavior of some Romanians at the wheel is often irresponsible. The general disregard of speed limits can transform a commonplace accident into a scene of horror. Around Suceava, to fight against this plague of roadside accidents, the police force takes action by occupying the ground. Danust and Ionut are two specialists fighting against road delinquency.
Zilele de astăzi va mai fi și o acțiune legată de consumul de alcool de către cei care urcă la...
On the E85, they wage war on reckless drivers, tracking down the slightest infringement of the highway code or dangerous behavior. In their police car, they have an onboard radar that is ideal for blending into traffic without being detected. And very quickly, the two policemen spot a first infraction. Ionut immediately signals to the driver coming in front to pull over. They make a U-turn in the middle of the double lane to quickly catch up with him.
Pentru viteză, depășirea este ultima zi în care poate face 39 de km în plus față de limita legală. Deci 4 puncte de penalizare la permis plus o amendă de 4,95.
Drivers in a hurry are the main target of the police. On the roads of Romania, excessive speed is responsible for 55% of fatal accidents. 2 years ago, this terrible pileup cost the lives of more than 6 people. Tragedies are often caused by drivers who exceed 130 kilometers per hour, while the roads are all limited to 80 kilometers per hour on average. The roads bear the scars of these disasters. On the side of the European 85 are hundreds of crosses placed on the scene of deaths in homage to the victims of the road. It is not uncommon to come across these kinds of mausoleums. The roundabout at the entrance of Suceava, nicknamed the Roundabout of Death, was the scene of a monstrous accident that cost the life of an entire family, including a 10-year-old child.
Legislația se aliniază la normele europene, ceea ce e ok. Dar fiecare țară are specificul ei. Persoanele au temperamentul lor.
Today, the police do not show any tolerance. A little further down the road, they pull over a particularly dangerous driver who has crossed a white line. The bill is going to be costly.
Centura de siguranță o puneți când plecați de pe loc, una la mână, doi la mână. Aveți marcaj continuu acolo, de ce ați depășit? Domnul Florin, pentru manevra efectuată, se suspendă dreptul de a conduce o perioadă de 30 de zile. Amenda este 580 de lei, iar pentru faptul că nu folosiți centura de siguranță, amenda este 290 de lei și 2 puncte de penalizare.
That is a quarter of the minimum wage in Romania. In Romania, overtaking a white line leads to an immediate suspension of your license.
O zi bună, circulați cu prudență.
Even though the Romanians are strict with their road safety, the results are far from reflective. Suburb of Iași, in the northeast of Romania. Stefan, 62 years old, wants to show us this crosswalk, also situated on the European 85.
Deci aici, cam aici sunt în față.
December 2nd, 2015. His daughter Anna Maria goes to school like any other day. To take her bus, she just has to cross the road. But that day, a driver going at 90 kilometers per hour in this zone limited to 60 will crash into the teenager, throwing her more than 30 meters ahead.
Iar de acolo a fost dusă până la aproape de stația de autobuz. Aproape zilnic. Aproape simțiți când treceți. De fiecare dată mi-aduc aminte cum era Ana și cum este acum. Vă dați seama că mi se strânge inima.
The teenager was rushed to the hospital and is now a quadriplegic. Stefan and his wife Maria have been at their daughter's bedside for 5 years. It's 4 o'clock, time to give Anna Maria her snack.
Pupăm, Ana? Pupăm? Da? 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 Știi? Da? Ca papa la față. Da? Da? Așa, așa. Pupăm. Da, fetiță. Fetiță frumoasă.
Able to see and feel, but unable to move, Anna Maria is now trapped in her body. To eat, her mother injects the food directly into her stomach.
Acum disfac ăsta de aici, are un așa, un butonaj, pun asta aici, siringa, încep să dau încetul la...
Ce bandit, da, mai mult
To communicate, Anna Maria has only her eyes left.
Cu ochii, când e afirmativ, de exemplu, închide ochii. Ana, tu mă iubești pe mine? Așa. Mă iubești? Închide ochii, așa, așa, da. Deci când e afirmativ, când nu...
Da, zâmbește, da. Mă bucur, sigur că da. Și cred că Ana într-o zi o să vorbească.
Îți rupe inima. Îți rupe inima. O ajutăm cât de mult putem. Cât de mult putem noi.
They have only photos to remind themselves of how their daughter used to be, or this guitar that was close to her heart. A time when Anna Maria was a teenager, just like any other.
Aici când era Ana la liceu, aici când vacanță, aici când a terminat clasa 8-a, o slăbit până de la 45 de kg la 29, în 3 luni a slăbit. Aici când a făcut Ana 18 ani, tot era accidentul, a pus să loc.
A life ruined once again by a reckless driver.
Da, din cauza unui șofer grăbit. Asta e. Grava. Grava aduce suferință. Nouă viața fetei nu va mai fi. Nici tot banii din lume poate să...
Now, Stefan is fighting for the conviction of a man who killed his daughter. While waiting for the trial, he curses the European 85 every day.
Interior de oraș, nu avem șosea strategică pentru camioanele mari. Aici și mari și mici pe aici circulă.
Every year, nearly 30 pedestrians are killed on these Romanian roads. Today, disgusted by these daily tragedies which strike innocent families, a man decided to act and to push the Romanian authorities. Stefan Mandaki, a 35-year-old millionaire with a passion for expensive cars.
Sunt Ștefan Mandachi. Nu fac politică, nu sunt activist, nu fac parte din nicio organizație sau mișcare. Sunt român. Locuiesc în Suceava și sunt țăran de la...
The businessman made his fortune with his restaurant chain. He is the head of an empire of 56 establishments. With the help of campaign clips broadcast throughout the country, he leads a crusade against the government to demand the construction of a highway worthy of the name. We asked him for his time as he traveled along the E85 towards Bucharest.
Este un drum mortoar, nu periculos. Suceava este județul care în 2019 a avut cele mai multe victime în accidente rutiere. Deci, practic, eu locuiesc în cel mai periculos județ din România, iar România este cea mai periculoasă țară din Uniunea Europeană în ceea ce privește siguranța în trafic.
For years, Stefan Mandaki has used this essential connection for business, the only road leading to the capital, Bucharest. He knows the extreme danger of the road better than anyone.
Tragice, pentru că am fost la un pas de a muri de mai multe ori. Drumul ăsta e presărat cu traume în viața mea, pentru că am văzut cu ochii mei carnagii, am văzut oameni morți. Șoferul a zburat prin barbriz și am încercat să-l resuscitez. Deci, efectiv, m-am dus, am oprit mașina pe dreapta și m-am dus lângă el să-l resuscitez, să-l vedeam că se sufoc acolo și moare, a murit sub ochii mei. Deci eu pe 85 am amintiri negre pe traseul ăsta.
But it was another event that would change his life. Stuck on the E85 due to a roadside accident, he was not able to see his mother one last time before her death.
Mama era bolnavă, în stadiu terminal. Îmi imaginam că urmează să moară și trebuia să ajung numai decât la spital. Când mama aștepta la spital și nu puteam să ajung, efectiv, nivelul de frustrare ajunsese la o cotă maximală. Nu mai puteam să mai duc. Și atunci am sunat avocatul și am spus: Daniel, acum redactez o acțiune și dai în judecată pe toți președinții României din 1990 până astăzi.
Stefan then launches a national fight to denounce the inaction of the authorities. He forms a collective and takes action throughout the country in order to demand the construction of a highway in the northeast of Romania. He unites all those who are tired of seeing their loved ones die on roads like the E85. But Stefan Mandaki will go even further. A year ago, he bought a piece of land along the road 10 kilometers from Suceava to build a meter of highway.
Este singurul metru de autostradă pe care l-are Moldova. Și atunci, decât să stau să mă mai plâng, că m-am plâns destul, cum ne-am plâns cu toții, când avem autostrăzi, când avem drumuri, când avem infrastructură, am pus mâna pe hârleț, pe lopată, am adus oameni și am început să construim.
To defy the government, Stefan built this mini plot of highway in accordance with highway codes.
Cam așa arată un șantier.
Costing a total sum of 100,000 euros.
Imediat după Revoluție trebuia să începem un plan amplu de autostrăzi, dar nu avem autostrăzi din cauza că s-a furat, din cauza că au existat foarte mulți corupți și din cauza fricii, pentru că românii n-au vocația de a protesta.
And to spread awareness, he also insisted on exposing the wrecked vehicles crushed in the fatal accidents.
Care a fost implicat într-un accident rutier la nivel de cale ferată. În mașina asta era un șofer, era o fată în dreapta, o fată de... Aici în spate era una de 13, una de 11, mama copiilor, care a pierdut 4 copii, mi-a spus că nici nu era semnalată calea ferată cu semnal rutier.
Another tragedy that took place on one of the many level crossings on the European route. To blame? The missing signposts, but also the carelessness of some drivers who lack the patience to wait for the train to pass, as shown here. Last year, a Romanian social network celebrity, Tavi Pustiu, was crushed by a train. The singer was live streaming on Facebook while he was driving. His death caused commotion throughout the country. Negligent behavior combined with poor infrastructure. This explosive cocktail makes Romania the most accident-prone country in Europe. On the E85, there is, of course, a constant flow of cars, hundreds of trucks crossing the region from north to south, and pedestrians using the road as a sidewalk. But in the midst of this traffic, there are some unusual vehicles, horse-drawn carts. Behind the rural charm of these carriages lies a serious threat to road safety in Romania. A few kilometers from Suceava, we meet Ionut, a traffic policeman. He knows too well the problem of these carts on the E85. They've been regulating them for 12 years now, relentlessly.
Uite, de exemplu, risc rutier. În spatele unei căruții se formează coloană de mașini, da? Cu siguranță, la un moment dat, unul o să vrea să depășească. N-are, chiar dacă e linie continuă, n-ai cum să mergi cu 2 km/h. Și atunci se expune riscului rutier.
They are forbidden to drive on the E85. However, many cart drivers ignore this rule and risk their lives. In this video, filmed by a dash cam, a driver fails to slow down in time to avoid the cart. Without headlights or signs, these carriages are even more dangerous at night. Here, a carriage is literally blown up by a car. Despite the violence of the impact, the driver and the horse survived. As for this accident that occurred 3 years ago, both drivers of the carriage died on the spot. In 2019, nearly 1,000 carts were involved in traffic accidents. Preventing this type of collision is one of Ionut's missions. His inspections always begin with the villages close to the E85. On these adjacent roads, carts are tolerated.
Bună ziua! Comisar șef Epureanu de la IPJ Suceava vă deranjez. Ce faceți? E deteriorat. Vă rog să coborâți, să ne prezentați puțin și să vă spuneți o identitate, un nume și un prenume și o dată de naștere. Nici ăsta nu asigură deloc indicii de reflexie, adică nu te face vizibil în trafic.
Today, the police officer is only doing prevention work. He installs reflective strips on the back of the carriages for free.
Postăm o plăcuță reflectorizantă, indicele de reflecție este maxim, astfel încât, în special pe timpul nopții, să-i crească vizibilitatea în trafic.
Coupled with this problem of visibility, these carts also have very basic foundations. A couple of wooden boards, smooth tires, and a braking system that must be activated manually.
Și amul dăm drumul înapoi. E strâns. E strâns acum.
Carne, mâncare la drumul european, pe drumul european, de exemplu, la ieșirea din sat și până la Iscani, e riscul tău.
These carts are the only means of transport for poor people. Entire families are crammed into them, and children are often among the victims. Horses pay the highest price. Nearly 200 horses died last year in collisions with cars. Once on the European 85, it will only take a few minutes for Ionut to find a cart amongst the cars going at 80 kilometers per hour, with 4 people on board. Including 2 children.
N-ar fi voi, dar nu avem bani să plătim așa.
Nu vorba de bani, e vorba că duci copiii în căruță.
Nu avem cu cine să-i lăsăm.
Vine un utilaj mare și îi spulbere. Vedeți 4 oameni care să Dumnezeu, vă scos, dar nu scăpați niciunul în problemul.
The driver is totally unaware of the danger he is putting his family in, but Ionut doesn't want to burden them anymore.
Acasă nu pot fi lăsați singuri. Oamenii ăștia trăiesc în case în care se face foc, în sobe, se gătește la foc. Dacă îi aplici o sancțiune contravențională, care este destul de mare, așa cum spuneam și data trecută, în jur de 50 de euro, poate chiar mai mult, nu faci nimic.
To avoid an accident, the policeman decides to escort them out of the E85, even if it means slowing down the traffic. He goes as far as to direct the traffic to keep them out of danger. Around Suceava, incidents are daily. The E85 is entirely surrounded by fields, and several hundred carts cross the road every day. The police are once again called to the scene of an accident. A carriage has just been hit by a car. The 13-year-old child, a passenger in the carriage, is injured. His body was shot out of the carriage, and he cannot move his leg.
Haideți să luăm un pic în
A, păi da, dai seama, ia prin sus. Dacă prost e lovit, stai așa, stai. Nu deschide ușa, Oleag. Nu deschide ușa.
He was rushed to the hospital. Under the force of the impact, the car lifted the cart and crashed under it. Members of the driver's family have reached the area of the pylon. You'll see how tempers can quickly flare.
Mergeți mai stați. Mergeți, vă rog, acolo pe margine. Nu stați aici, că poate să vă tragă pe margine.
The officers try to understand what happened. But the stories of the two parties differ. The driver of the car says that the carriage cut him off. The atmosphere intensifies. Insults are numerous.
Vă rog frumos, stați pe iarbă. Vă rog frumos, nu-mi stați aici în cap.
The cart driver's grandmother is angry. She knows that whatever happens, the police will inevitably conclude that the carriage is responsible.
Vina pe noi, că n-avem unde să mirem, noi aici ne-am trezit. Noi pe drumul ăsta ne-am trezit, noi n-avem alt drum. Eu aici am 60, mortal, corect, corect.
Normal. Și gândiți-vă dumneavoastră, e greu și la noi. Ce nu fac și nouă un drum, să avem și noi un drum, să mergem și noi cu căruțele. Pe partea asta, de exemplu, mergem, pe partea asta venim. Nu ne trebuie autobandă, nu vreau.
But the policemen show no leniency. The family is fined 350 euros, the equivalent of an average salary in Romania. On the roads, the authorities must also fight against another scourge: criminal organizations. At the border between Romania and Ukraine is a wooded area split in half by the European Route 85. For the mafias of the East, especially the Ukrainian mafia, E85 is the entry point into the European Union for all traffic. In particular, the smuggling of tobacco. 1.5 million packages were seized in 2019. To fight against this trafficking, Romania has pulled out all the stops. The latest thermal camera to scan the forests and permanent border policing along the E85. A dangerous mission. Once on the European road, the traffickers take all the risks possible to avoid the police. In this footage, a simple control is seen ending in a chase. In order to keep his goods, the driver of this van full of cigarettes reverses his car for several kilometers. The policemen order him to stop. Without success, they decide to shoot the tires. In a last attempt to escape, the man continues on foot before being caught by the police. Inside the van, 100,000 packs of contraband cigarettes worth 250,000 euros. At the headquarters of the border police, the chief commissioner, Ilie, welcomes us to this strange parking lot, transformed into a giant junkyard for all the vehicles seized on the E85. They have been arresting criminals like this every week for some time now.
Deci au scos panchete din spate, scaunul de partea șoferului, pentru că încăpea cât mai multe țigări de contrabandă.
And the mafia test their ingenuity in hiding their contraband.
În banchete, sub preșuri, în portierele mașinii, în plafonul, în podul pedalier, în faruri, în băle de protecție, în roțile mașinii.
In the middle of the tourist cars, this military truck.
Marca Zil, de proveniență ucraineană. Colegii mei din cadrul serviciului de poliție frontieră Suceava, deci poliție frontieră suceveni, au depistat acest camion în apropierea frontierei de stat, cu frontiera din Ucraina în România, în direcția localității Flătăuți.
The total worth of seizures on the E85 last year equaled to 4 million euros. However, another, much more profitable form of smuggling is of great concern to the authorities: the illegal trafficking of wood, estimated to be around 1 billion euros. A traffic which decimates the forests, but which also especially directly threatens the users of the E85. Trucks filled to the brim with cut tree trunks are regularly the cause of fatal accidents. In this footage from February 2018, 2 men died, crushed under several tons of tree trunks. Bogdan and his colleague Nicolae are both forest guards. They patrol the E85 to control the transport of wood, assisted by 2 policemen. 3 trucks driving in a single file immediately attract Bogdan's attention.
Transporturile sunt legale sau nu sunt legale. Dacă nu sunt legale, vom lua măsuri în consecință, iar dacă sunt legale, aceste mijloace de transport își pot continua drumul.
These 3 suspected trucks belong to the same convoy.
Vă rog să-mi prezentați documentele personale ale autovehiculului și ale încărcăturii.
With nearly 20 logs weighing several tons, their load can become deadly. The police officers must check that the safety conditions are being respected.
Veniți puțin. Tocmai pentru a nu se putea ca lemnul să sară din mașină pentru a lovi alte mașini.
A few days before our shoot, an accident made the local papers. the old straps of an overloaded truck snapped. The trunks flew through the cars driving behind. There were 2 victims.
E transbordare, nu? Așa zice aici. Transbordare de la adâncata. Okay.
In the case of road security, Romanians are at the forefront of technology. Thanks to a smartphone application, he has access to all the details concerning this transport.
A treia rubrică este, deci fiecare aviz are o serie unică, AA și un număr unic. Introducem și în momentul ăla datele nu mai pot fi schimbate.
The reason why Bogdan is so meticulous when counting is that an overloaded truck is also proof of illegal timber transport. A scourge that not only kills people on the roads, but also among law enforcement. Since 2014, 6 forest rangers have been murdered on the E85 by timber mafias, including this family man who at the wrong time fell upon a prohibited convoy. It remains proof of the unfailing determination of criminal organizations. These 3 trucks are all in order. They will be able to continue their route.
Și verificările efectuate s-au constatat că transportul este legal.
Am înțeles.
Verificați să aveți toate documentele, da? Și mi le-ați dat.
Just back on the European 85, the truckers who have just been checked warned the other drivers by radio.
Ei practic știu în orice moment poziția noastră. E greu așa. Ceea ce comunică șoferii. Practic.
In Romania, the mafias are willing to do anything to ravage the forests of the country. In the meantime, Romanian drivers continue to die on the E85. Ten kilometers from Suceava, the poor district of Patrauti, we find this victim of an accident a few days earlier. A car crashed into a farmer's cart who had illegally driven on the E85 with his horse to work in the fields. In the collision, his son Emmanuel was injured and rushed to the hospital. Today, the young teenager is recovering. He got away with just a broken ankle and a new fear for his life.
E frică acum de mașini.
Da, mi este frică.
Că sunt multe mașini.
Sunt multe mașini.
El spunea că mai merge niciodată cu baitonul. Nu mai merge pe drum că se teme.
Emmanuel's grandmother takes us a little further into the neighborhood. She wants to introduce us to another neighboring family. Bereaved parents whose lives were turned upside down by the E85 in August 2019. Their son Miroslav was hit while driving along the road. He died instantly. A few days before filming, a pedestrian also died on the road, not far from there, killed by a hit and run. Miroslav's parents are devastated.
Reprezintă fetele mele la căpătăiul băiatului meu când era decedat. Reprezintă o mare jale și o mare întristare. Că eu de multe ori nu mai pot suferi nici astăzi în casă, că nu mai pot vedea. Nici nu le pot suferi în casă când mă uit. Dar vreau să întreb și eu pe cineva să mă lămurească. Orice om, dacă trece pe un drum european, merită să moară? Asta e întrebarea mea. Altă întrebare nu. El spune că nu a fost băut, a avut numai 50 de km la oră.
For this penniless family, the inaction of the justice system is heartbreaking.
Pistarea locului.
Nu, până am ajuns. Nimic, n-am văzut nimic absolut.
Până am ajuns, noi nu s-o fac nimic. S-au stat băietul 9 zile în comă. Noi suntem o familie foarte nacajută din 10 copii, din care din 10 a mai rămas cu 9, 7 fete și 3 băieți.
în privință din ce cauză că nu vine să ne ajute măcar cu un leu. Nimic. Noi ne-am... Și legea nu ne-a dat nimic, niciun rezultat, un an de zile, și nu ne-a făcut legea niciun nimic, niciun rezultat, nimic.
The investigation concluded, as it often does here, that the driver was not responsible. Unacceptable for these heartbroken parents. The man who killed their son continues to drive his car. One more driver on the loose in this battered country that never ceases to count its victims. In Romania, deaths continue to happen at an alarming rate.